It's DIY day in the cave again, and there's a lot to do, but can we just take a moment to enjoy the calm and the warm weather that's finally arrived here just before we get down to business? This moment of tranquility is sponsored by Squarespace. If you caught the end of our last update, you'd have seen that we'd started building a reception/bar area, and I'm keen to finish that up today. Something to create a really good first impression when you first walk into the cave. We've also got this area to sort out. I want to build a tabletop gaming library here, and we'll make big inroads into that aim today, as well as getting rid of the last bits of rubbish which are there. We're also tackling electrical work, we're getting machines functioning in the exhibition space, some of which is successful, some of which needs rethinking along the way. And we've got a very special delivery to unwrap too. So I guess we should begin where we left off with that reception desk. If we're to get this in keeping with the rest of the cave, then we need to stain that CLS wooden frame. And given the conditions this week, it really shouldn't take long at all to dry between applications. I'm using this little tub of Ronseal dark oak. It's a 10-year wood stain apparently, so does that mean we'll get 20 years out of 2 applications? I don't know, but it's also rainproof, so it's good to prepare for every eventuality. I'll just apply it around the frame itself. I'm not worried about that backboard. We'll tackle that in a moment. And you don't want to watch paint dry. So let's hit fast forward on Neil. Come on, paint faster, man. Once the first coat had dried, I put on a second coat to get a slightly deeper colour. And then I don't want the wood backing to be visible through the game boxes, and it will be because the games are all different shapes and sizes. So I've decided to line it with this black material, which I had left over from cladding the wall frames that we built in previous episodes, and I'm just stapling that straight into place with a staple gun. Seems to do the job, and I think that will be more than enough for what we need here. The next step is to create that display of big box games, and that's harder than it looks. While a lot of games stick to fairly uniform sizes, there's plenty of variety in the box sizes. It's like a great big game of Tetris, only one where I want to lose the game and fill up all of the lines. I nearly achieved perfection, but I did have to use a cassette in the middle to get that final spacing in a way that I thought was about right, around about the centre of the display because it should be hidden there. But we'll find out towards the end if I've hit the centre or not. I really enjoyed putting this display together. I must have looked at it over 100 times now, and it still gives me a huge nostalgia hit every time I look at it. So I think I'm doing something right here. Hopefully you agree and you get the same feeling when you see it. To protect the games, I've got some Perspex sheets. They're as large as the supplier was willing to ship them to me without fear of them breaking. So there is a split down the middle, and we'll hide that with some wooden cladding. Next, I went ahead and very carefully drilled holes in it. The last thing I wanted to do was crack these sheets. And you can see it's got a lightly smoked finish, which I'm hoping will give it a classy look while offering some UV protection to the artwork itself. A few finishing touches now, including the board down the middle, which goes to show that my cassette is not in the centre of the display and it's still visible. So I'm going to need to get back in and shuffle the games around. No problem there. And I've added a stained piece of CLS along the bottom to act as a kickboard. I've also routed it a little bit to accommodate the centre board. And while it does offer some protection, there's still a danger of the whole thing getting whacked by clumsy feet. But there's always a balance to these things, the risk versus the visual reward without impeding on the look you're trying to get by being overly cautious. I'm happy with the overall finish to this. And I think, and I hope, that it's a really nice way to start your journey into the cave by coming up to this desk. Let's cover off a few more jobs now, starting with getting those cables tidy in the exhibition space. It doesn't matter how nice I try and make this place look, if trailing cables are hanging down behind desks, it's always going to look nasty. And it's a lot of desk to sort out. If you look up cable trays specifically made for desks, it's going to get expensive, really expensive very quickly. So I've sourced these 3-meter lengths of cable trays, which are normally used for more industrial applications. They're normally mounted overhead. And I paired them up with these are C-shaped support brackets. And the size of the trays should mean that we have plenty of room for everything we could ever want to squeeze onto those desks. So that's how we'll tackle cable management, and while we're at it, I thought I'd upgrade the saddle clips on the desk. That's those clips that hold the wooden tops to the scaffold poles. The ones I bought previously did the job, but I happened upon these much more substantial clips, and I thought it would be worth swapping them out as we're under there, so we'll do that. The men for this job were our friends Dean and Mark, who carried out some minor adjustments. And I'm pleased to say that after ripping 2 pairs of trousers in as many episodes, Dean has treated himself to some new ones. These even have knee pads. Luxury trousers. So while the guys are working on that, I decided it was time to install a sound system in the cave. Now don't get all audiophile and snobby on me here. This is to flood the cave out with low-level ambient music. It's to create a nice atmosphere while you're using the machines. And of course it will have the added bonus of entertaining me while I'm making videos here. I've got 8 speakers in total, all of which have a 100 volt transformer in them and a suitable amp to drive them. And at this point I must say a big thank you to Rob here from the YouTube channel, the Twingo channel. He popped in to drop a few things off, including this beautiful PVM monitor. This is a 14-inch Sony. It supports 50 and 60 Hz inputs, so it's really useful to have, and I'm sure the picture is going to look amazing. Not only that, he turned up with donuts and he volunteered his time to help us out, so thank you very much, Rob. And likewise to John, who also popped in, but he has evaded the camera, so thank you also, John. To get cables to the speakers, I made use of the existing trays down the length of the cave, so that was nice and easy. And I've put the amp in the storeroom, propped up on some chocks just to keep it nice and cool. And like I said, it's functional, it's not earth-shattering, but it does have a good feature set for this particular space. Namely, I can leave an SD card in it and it will automatically play as soon as it's turned on, so I can just set and forget it. It lets me connect by Bluetooth, and I can get down the whole length of the cave while connected, so I can just stream music to it. And clean up on aisle 5, please. Let's see how the cable trays are doing under the desks. Well, I'm pretty happy with how these are looking. The trays under the desks are going to do a great job, and they're certainly in keeping with the scaffold design of the desk. I think it works really well. Let's just walk along the benches here, and I think that's pretty inviting. Or at least it will be when you've got something to sit on. No distractions from hanging cables, just lots of nice micros and consoles to play on. In no particular order at the moment, I just grabbed what I could. And of course, when it's all finished and we come to open, we'll have some logic to the way they're laid out, as well as information plaques and help on how to use them. But what we won't have is cable issues, that's the key here today. But again, it's a nice tidy finish for now. And over on the shaky cam now, you can see that the new saddle clips are much less likely to cause harm to anyone who catches themselves on them compared to the previous clips. Very nice. And if I'm going to attract visitors, sell tickets and have an online presence, I'll need the help of Squarespace. Squarespace make it easy to create an online presence with their library of templates to get you started, all of which can be customized to the extreme to suit your image and that of your business. A nice wood grain background or a mill pond perhaps, in my case. You can make a shop, a blog, a gallery of retro machines, whatever you want to create for your audience, and you can do it for 14 days free when you visit squarespace.com/RMC. And if you make a purchase, you can enjoy 10% off using the code RMC. Thank you to Squarespace for supporting the cave. Check them out, squarespace.com/RMC. We've got a lot more to do and things are going well today, but let's just take a short break now to talk about something that was less successful this month and something that we need to reconsider. So what have we had to change our mind on? Well, first of all, I'm sorry if there's a bit of background noise. I've got all of the windows open. It's been such a hot week that I've got to get the air in here. The good news is if I open the windows front and back, the air does come through here, and that's really important. If we're going to have 30 bodies in here or so, we need to keep that temperature down. So that's good news. It just means we can hear the weir possibly if the mic's picking it up, crashing it down in the background. Anyway, things that we've changed our mind on. You remember we've got these satellite tables dotted around the exhibition area. The idea was to have power like this coming down to each table with an extension plank on the bottom so that we can have a system on each one without cables as trip hazards. However, we only did one and we thought this just isn't going to work really. As lovely as this braided red cable is, there are too many dangers. For example, if a kid tries to climb in it, or an adult for that matter, it's going to pull out the junction box. Yes, we could replace that with a plug or something more quick release, but it's still a danger. If the table gets tipped over, well, that's going to rip it out of the socket, which is under here. There are just too many factors, and the only way really that we can think to secure that would be to put a solid pole down there, and then, well, it's going to look like an exotic dancers club, isn't it? That's not the look I'm trying to get here at all. And thinking about it more as we introduce more things like the furniture for the tabletop gaming, the museum type displays that we want to put in the other end of the room, as we put more and more stuff in here, I become more and more aware that there's less room for the meat, for the meat in the retro sandwich. You people who come and visit, you need tables like this to sit at, you need benches, you need chairs. So actually it's probably a much better idea if we just have these tables empty in the middle of the exhibition area, so you can bring your tabletop games, so you can put your coffee here, not next to the machines, so you can have your sandwiches or whatever. I think it's important that we have those spaces. And I'll compensate for that by having more benches around the perimeter of the exhibition space with more cable trays, now that we know they're successful, and more machines set up. So we're not going to lose out on the number of hands-on machines. In fact, with the plans I'm concocting, we're actually going to get more machines than we would have originally had with these tables. So we're going to do away with this. It was a nice idea while it lasted, but I think it's the wrong idea for this space. What a shame. It's time to work on a whole new corner of the cave now, and I'm kitting it out with these beautiful pigeonholes. They're lovely solid wood with lots of character. I love the little numbers that have been painted on these, and they were well worth the effort of carrying them all the way up to the top of the mill. That was a workout, I can tell you. On these will go electronic tabletop games, handhelds, Game & Watch devices, a whole library of them if you like, and you will be supervised, so someone will be able to help you to use the right power adapter or batteries to get them up and running, and then you can take them off to a table and try them out. And yes, these cases will need to be firmly secured to the walls and to each other to avoid any accidents with them falling over. I will do that before opening up. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's get some games on them. These aren't all of them, we have more boxes to come, but I thought I'd put them out just to give us an impression of how it's all going to look, and lots of them are in their original boxes, which is a really nice touch. It gives the whole thing a kind of a shop feel and a real nice feeling of stepping back in time, if you like. The white wall behind these shelves is the perfect opportunity to bounce some light around behind them, so I've opted for these self-adhesive LED strips. A lot of you will be very familiar with these already, and I've lined the backs of the shelves with them to get a nice look. I think this has turned out great. It's the real look that I was going for, the kind of old school shop, that nostalgia hit when you look at all the old boxes. As I said, there's a lot more tabletop games to come. I think, of course, the Nintendo Game & Watch ones will be really popular, and I think these all belong to Mark, by the way, who was doing the cable trays earlier. He's got a lot more Game & Watches to come, so I think they'll be popular, as will all of them. So long as we make sure people get the right power supplies and the right batteries to easily enjoy them. Of course, you want to see the lighting, which I've got on a smart plug, so I should be able to turn it on from my phone. There we go, set to blue at the moment, but I can set it to any number of colours. I just liked the blue the best. And yeah, I think it's a good look. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, there are more considerations to think about. It's right by the exit, so of course, security is something some of you have raised in previous episodes. How are we going to make sure things that are just loose on shelves aren't going to get nicked? Well, it's something we need to consider. I think it's going to involve scanners and RFID tags and all of that business further down the line, but it's certainly a consideration for this area where it's right next to the exit and very easy to just pick something like that up. So it is on the radar, don't worry. In terms of the look, I just want to bring the camera around here and show you this. I'm standing at the entrance to the cave here, so you get the reception desk, you get the arcade, you get the exhibition space, you get the handhelds, but as you look down the room, what I really like about this is you get the edge of the handheld shelves which come into the room, Behind that, you'll have the reading area and that lovely orange and blue wall. Behind that, you have the lights of the studio. So it gives you a sense that not only is it one great big room, there's also lots of smaller areas in which you can explore. So it gives you that element of exploration rather than seeing everything all at once. There's more than meets the eye when you first come in. And I'll work further on creating more spaces like that. Of course, the ultimate space would be the secret arcade if we ever hit that goal of 2,000 patrons in order to afford that, but that's way down the line. But having put these shelves up now, is really starting to come together for me. The ideas that I had in my head, I'm really starting to see them come to fruition now. That's really satisfying, and we'll continue to work on that, especially with the reading area. I'm so happy with these shelves that I'm going to get in touch with the guy who provided them, Mark. There's a link in the video description, by the way. He's based in Brighton on the south coast of the UK. If you happen to be in the market for these, I highly recommend him. And I'm going to get him to make some up which are the right size, because he does bespoke furniture as well, for our magazines. So we'll have another L shape back there for the reading area. Also to go in the reading area is the very special parcel which arrived, which you saw at the start of this episode. I've been waiting weeks to open this. I've been saving it for you on this video, and now finally we get to open it and have a look. So let's go and do that now. So what do you think it is then? I think some of you can perhaps guess even before I've unwrapped it. And it comes courtesy of bitcade.co.uk, who contacted me out of the blue and said, "Do you want one of these for the cave?" And I said, "What's the catch?" And they said, "There isn't one. We just want to help you build the space." Well, okay then, I wasn't going to say no to that, was I? It is, of course, a cocktail arcade cabinet with support for 2 players, one at either end. They even offered to make me a custom RMC top for it, and I thought, you know what, we could do that, but let's keep it nice and simple. We'll just go with a basic wood grain style on top, onto which I can put RMC branded coasters or whatever else, and I think that would be more than enough for the space here. On the inside, it has a jammer harness, so I could connect original arcade boards to it if I wanted to, but attached to it is something called a game elf. It's one of those arcade boards with lots and lots of games on them, in this case a little over 400 games, which are all in the vertical screen orientation, so they're perfectly suited to this cabinet. And it includes proper old school classics like Ms. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Mr. Do was in there, I had a game of that, and also Arkanoid was on there, although that was a little bit tricky to play with the joystick. I can perhaps see myself performing a spinner modification to this sometime in the near future. It really is a lovely thing, a perfect addition to the reading area, whether you're using it as a table, whether you're actually playing games on it, whatever, it's perfect to go in there, and I really appreciate the kindness shown by Bitcade. And of course, would encourage you to take a look at their range, bitcade.co.uk. They do upright cabinets as well as cocktails like this and a lot more besides. So thank you very much, guys. I love it, and I hope you can come and visit sometime and see it in situ. Well, it's been a hell of a week. Really productive, hard work, but I'm really happy with how it's come out. We got that reception area done, really love that. It could do with a bit of lighting. I don't really want to line the inside with LED lights. You can go a bit overboard with the LEDs. It can get a bit tacky, particularly if you can see the individual dots of the LEDs. I don't like that. I like the light to kind of dissipate and spread and look nice. So I think I'd rather have a couple of spotlights above the reception area looking down. But I think ambience, spotlights, rugs, things like that, that can come right at the end. We'll take stock of the room as a whole and decide where everything needs to be. The tabletop gaming area, really happy with that. And we're going to mimic that in the reading area because I'm so happy with those pigeonholes that we're going to get some made up by the same guy, Mark. And again, details in the description if you want to purchase some of those. He's based in Brighton, but he will deliver far and wide if you want anything like that. So we'll get some cases made up that will fit magazines from him. We'll mimic that in the reading area. Of course, the cocktail cabinet will go in the reading area. Lots of comfy chairs, more spaces for the meat, as I called you earlier. I must think of a better name. The cave dwellers, of course, the cave dwellers. More room for you to come and sit and relax, because it's not all about sitting here constantly playing games. It's about just taking in the ambience and being together and chatting with one another. It's not a solitary activity coming to the cave. It's very much a social one. Of course, we need stools around here. At the moment, having tried a few things and thought of a few things, I'm thinking wooden science lab style stools because they'll tuck under there nicely. And I know some of you will say, well, they'll be uncomfortable. Well, there's kind of a point to that because we want people to enjoy and play them, but not hog them. So if you're a little bit uncomfortable, I know it sounds a bit mean, but it might encourage you to shift on to the next machine and let other people play on them. There's method to the madness. So lots to think about, lots to do. Now, you'll remember I had the lights in the tabletop gaming area on a smart plug. I've gone a bit smart plug happy. So much so that absolutely everything in the cave is now on a smart plug. And I've got a little button on my phone. It's just called Cave On. And when I press it, there we go, everything turns on. The festoon lights above me turn on. The RGB lighting at the studio and in the tabletop library turn on. The music starts playing automatically. All of the machines on the workbench come on. The only other thing I have to do is press the button on the remote control to go to the SCART input on these Sony monitors or TVs. There we go. They're all on. At the press of a single button, the cave comes alive and we're ready to go. And that will follow through to the other workbench. That will all be on smart plugs, the arcade, everything. I'm addicted to smart plugs, what can I say? And I've also, of course, got a cave off button. There we go, that's enough of that nonsense. It's all coming together beautifully. And I can't leave you today without saying a huge thank you to you for making this possible, and especially to the official Cave Dwellers. It's all thanks to the patrons at patreon.com/RMC Retro that we can afford to do this, that we can afford the time and the money to put all this together. And we've got a huge push now. If we're going to make this happen in September, providing we've opened up, because here in the UK we're still technically locked down, but hopefully by September we'll be able to have visitors. Whether that will be in restricted numbers or full numbers, we don't know yet, but we really want to open the doors then. And that means we've got to push hard because September is looming. It's going to come around really, really quickly. And we're only going to achieve it with your support. So if you want to chip in and help, I'd really appreciate it. Head over to patreon.com/RMC Retro, as little or as much as you can afford to donate to help. It would be amazing. Every penny is really being thrown into this place, as I hope you can see, to make it happen. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.